Have you ever cried out to God, and I mean really cried out, and felt like heaven just kind of shrugged? like like somehow your prayers got lost in the shuffle. You're showing up, you're asking, you're desperate, and yet it seems like what you're getting is nothing but silence. It's frustrating, it's heartbreaking, and it can even feel personal, especially when you look around and see others, praying, and their prayers are being answered. God is answering their prayers, He's responding to them, but not to you. So let's talk about what to do when God seems quiet, because as it turns out, silence doesn't necessarily mean absence. But before we dive in, I have a gift for you that goes hand in hand with what we talk about on this podcast. It's called the Clarity Roadmap. It's only a couple pages long, so that means it's easy to digest. And it will help you to reflect, to pray, and to take action as you listen along. So grab it at the link in the show notes. If you have been in that place on your knees, whispering, God, are you even listening? I've been there too. And if you have ever wondered whether God is ghosting you, I'm glad you are with me today, because we are pulling back the curtain on what might be happening in what seems to be His silence. This episode is for you if you are in a season of what do I do when I'm trying to hear God, but all I'm getting is silence. And if you're not in that season now, you've been in that season, or you may be in that season at some point. So wherever you are at, this will help you. One thing I know about myself is that I don't like being shouted at or around. I despise it. I don't like it. I stop hearing, my ears stop hearing, and my brain stops processing sound when people start to shout at me. I can't do it. I can't handle it. I don't do it. Enthusiastic, passionate speaking. Yes, I'm all on board with that. I love that. But screaming and shouting at me or near me, no thank you. I can't do that. But one thing that I hate more than being shouted at is being completely ignored when I'm talking to somebody, especially when I'm saying something that I believe matters. You probably know that feeling. It's like you're invisible. It's like your voice doesn't register, or like you don't register. And that's exactly how I felt in prayer for years. I would be pouring out my heart to God, desperate for direction and aching for His comfort, and it felt like I was getting nothing. No whisper, no answer, no echo, just nothing. I remember crying out in my soul, hey God, I'm talking to you over here. Why won't you say something? And still all I got was silence. And I carried that ache for years, convinced that God was ignoring me. And in fact, I took it upon myself to extrapolate even further from what I perceived as God ignoring me, to start believing that maybe God didn't love me. Because you don't ignore somebody that you love, right? So I made it into a whole thing, until one day I realized that God actually wasn't silent. I had simply not been listening to or noticing what He had been saying all along. And to be honest, I had been completely ignoring what He had been saying to me all along. Because I wanted words, like I wanted God to speak to me in prayer, right? And I wanted signs, and I wanted clarity, preferably with bullet points and bold text and italics where I needed it. But God was speaking through quiet nudges. He was speaking through people around me. He was speaking a lot to me through scripture that I would skim over and glaze over, because they required me to let go of things that I did not want to let go of, things that I was clinging to. I ignored all of what God was trying to say to me because I couldn't or didn't want to handle the truth. And these days, I still cannot tolerate people shouting at me or shouting around me. I can, but I won't. I refuse to do that. But what I don't feel anymore these days is hurt or offended when I feel like people are ignoring me. I'm cool with that. If people want to ignore me, it's totally fine. Because now I know the truth, which is that the only one who truly matters never ignores me. He never ignores me. He hears every single word that I say to him. Well, just every single word I say in general. The thing is that he just doesn't always answer on my terms or in ways that I am looking for or expecting or wanting him to answer, right? So it has been on me to learn how to notice when God is answering me. So let's anchor this in the word, because the Bible has a lot to say about what we see as God's silence. John 10 verse 27 says, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me." God does speak, but learning to hear him is like learning a language. Sometimes there was something that God was telling me about myself. It wasn't a prayer I had been praying, but it was something that he had been telling me about myself for years. It was I'm gonna say probably about 5, 6, maybe even 7 years that he had been giving me this message through other people, and I completely missed it. Completely. It was only recently that I understood that God had been talking to me and telling me this thing all along. It was always God, but I missed it because I didn't realize, I didn't understand he had been talking to me through these people, right? So he speaks to us, but it's for us to learn to hear him. And sometimes to hear actually and to recognize when he is the one speaking to us, because he uses other people quite a lot, and he uses his word like all the time. And also sometimes we have been so bombarded by noise and by fear and by our own expectations that we just don't recognize God's voice anymore. So we have to learn how to reduce that background noise so we can start to hear him. Here is another passage. This one is from 1 Kings 19 verses 11 to 12. And it is when the prophet Elijah was hiding in a cave, desperate to hear from God. And it says, "And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind tore the mountains and broke into pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, the sound of a low whisper." God was not in the loud, noisy parts. He was in the quiet. So if you're not hearing him, it may not mean that he is not speaking. It may simply mean that he is inviting you to listen differently. So let's reframe the question. Instead of asking, why isn't God answering me, or why is God silent in my life, try asking instead, what might God be saying that I haven't learned to hear yet? What might God be saying that I am blocking out because I don't want to hear it? It shifts the posture from frustrated demand to curious surrender, which feels completely different, right? Hear the frustrated demand in why isn't God answering me, to the curious surrender in what might God be saying that I haven't learned to hear yet. There's a shift, and it completely it changes how you're able then to receive what he has to say. Because sometimes that is when the volume of his voice starts to rise. So what does this look like in real life when you're not hearing anything and you're tired of trying to guess? Let's start with something simple and foundational. Sometime this week, create 10 minutes of intentional quiet just to listen. No music, no podcast, no background noise, nothing, just silence, just quiet. sit with a piece of paper, a notepad, or a journal, or something to write with, and just say, Lord, what are you trying to show me right now? And then be quiet. Don't say anything else. Then write down anything that comes. It can be images, phrases, scripture, questions. Whatever it is, let it come, write it down. Don't edit it, just receive it. And if you're feeling like it's worth your time to go a little bit deeper, these reflection prompts that I'm about to give you will help you to process what might be getting in the way of you hearing God clearly. Remember, I don't ask rhetorical questions on this podcast. Every question is meant to help you to dig deeper and unearth the truth that will set you free. So here are your journaling prompts. Where in my life am I expecting God to speak in one way and I might possibly be missing how He actually is speaking? What noise or distractions might be drowning out God's whisper in my life? In what areas is it possible that God is speaking to me, but I'm ignoring Him because I don't want to hear what He has to say? What would it look like for me to trust God even when I don't feel like I can hear Him? And could it be that I have been talking more than I have been listening in my relationship with God? What would it look like if I actually shut up and listen instead? Look, you have a lot to say, and so do I. I have a lot to say. I'm a talker. I've been a talker, right? And I can talk a lot. But one thing I know is that God has much more important stuff to say to me than what I have to say. I remember a couple years ago, I was praying about what to do about a certain thing. I had a contract that was up for renewal, and I was trying to say, Lord, should I renew this contract? Should I extend it? What should I do? What should I do? And I was praying and praying and praying and felt like I wasn't hearing an answer. And I remember I was early one morning in my quiet time, I was praying, Lord, what should I do? What should I do? And God said to me, I want to talk to you, but you won't stop talking. I want to answer you, but you will not stop talking. And I was like, oh, okay. And I just shut up. I shut up. The question that I had to ask was already before Him, and I stopped talking and I listened. And within 5 minutes, the answer was clear. I got the answer. He had been trying to answer me and I would not stop talking. So one of the things that might be happening is that you're talking and talking and talking and not actually listening for what God might be saying to you. Oh, God is not ignoring you. He never does. He is not playing games with you. He's not holding out on you. He may simply be speaking in a way that your heart has not been trained to hear yet. Okay? You can hear Him. And He may just be speaking in a way that your heart is not trained to hear yet. Or He may be speaking and you are ignoring Him because what He's saying is not what you want to hear. Or you may be talking and talking and talking and not actually being quiet so you can hear what He has to say. You're not giving Him a chance to speak. So don't give up. Don't keep showing up. Just identify what's actually going on, what the issue is, and know this. When God seems silent, it might actually be the start of a deeper, quieter conversation. He is closer than you think, and He is always and still speaking to you. If today's episode stirred something in you, whether it was hope or clarity or even a little nudge from God, don't forget to download the Clarity Roadmap. It's a free guide designed to give you a quick jump start out of feeling stuck. You can print it, you can pray through it, or you can even use it as a journaling companion. Remember that you do not have to have all the answers. You simply need your one next step. And this free roadmap is a great place to start. All you have to do to get it is to click the link in the show notes.